Hello, and welcome to your lesson on the Lookup feature for Microsoft Excel. This feature is designed to help you quickly locate and retrieve information based on a common identifier between two sources. This feature can return the results from the left or the right of the common identifier. Please note, however, that the common identifier must be in ascending order to execute the search. Following is an example of the formula. Let's break it down into manageable pieces. So let's start with number 1, which equals lookup. This is the opening formula. All Excel formulas will begin with the equal sign followed by the actual function. Number 2 is C2. This represents the common identifier and also what we'll be searching for in field 3. Field 3 represents the cell where the common identifier for the second source will be located. Now this is where you want to make sure your identifier is in ascending order. Number 4 is where you will find the return value. So this is where you will tell Excel to search to return the value that you are looking for based on the common identifier found in number 3. Let's get some clarity by doing the actual lesson. Please open the reference workbook and go to the Order Details Lookup tab to follow along in this lesson. Okay, so here we are in our spreadsheet, and before we get started, I would like to tell you a little bit about our lesson. We will retrieve information directly from the List tab using the Lookup function. We will retrieve the sales rep, item type, unit sold, and the sales channel. We'll retrieve information from the right and the left of the common identifier. Now before we get started, I should reiterate that you always want to make sure that your common identifier on the search tab is always in ascending order when using the lookup function. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our first example. Okay, so let's go ahead and place our mouse inside of cell B2. Let's say equal and type the word lookup. Let's go ahead and place an opening parenthesis. Now the lookup value is going to be your common identifier. Again, this will be the order ID. So let's go ahead and select the order ID. Let's place a comma. Okay, so now we're going to go to our list tab and we're going to get the lookup vector, which is the common identifier on the list tab. Now we can select the entire column or we can select an array of cells. I'm going to go ahead and select the entire column for simplicity purposes. Okay, now let's go ahead and place a comma. Next, we want to go ahead and select the column that contains our sales rep, and this will be the return information. Again, I'm going to go ahead and select the entire column, which is column A. I'm going to go ahead and close it out with a closing parenthesis, and I'm going to select enter. Now our first return should say George. Let's go ahead and click it and see if we get the right results. Okay, and as you can see, it pulled George in. Okay, so now let's repeat these steps on our item type. Let's say equal and type the word lookup and start an opening parenthesis. Again, let's go ahead and select our common identifier, which is in cell A2. Let's place a comma. We'll head over to the list tab and get the common identifier, which will be the lookup vector. Okay, so go ahead and select column C. And then finally, we want to go ahead and find the item type. Let's go ahead and place another comma and select the item type, which is right next door to the identifier. Let's go ahead and place a closing parenthesis and say enter, and we're looking for close in this case. Okay, and that is correct. All right, let's continue on with the unit sold. Now when we move into the sales channel, I'll use an array just to give you an idea of the differences. So let's say equal and look up. Let's start an opening parenthesis and select our common identifier. Let's place a comma. Let's head over to the list tab. Select the common identifier, which is the vector on the list tab. We're going to select column C. Let's go ahead and place another comma. And now we're looking for units sold. and that is in column I. We're going to just go ahead and select the entire column. Let's place a closing parenthesis and go ahead and say enter. And we're looking for 3,482, and we have the correct information returned. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and do a lookup using an array. Let's go ahead and select cell E2 and say equal. Let's type the word lookup and place an opening parenthesis. Now let's go ahead and select the common identifier, which is A2. Now let's go ahead and place a comma. So we have the option to look up a vector or look up an array. The vector is what we just completed. Now let's go ahead and do an array. So let's hop over to the list tab. We're going to go ahead and select the common identifier. We're going to drag it all the way down to the cells channel since that's what we were attaining. Let's go ahead and drag it all the way down because we will need this information for the rest of our cells. Let's place a closing parenthesis and go ahead and say enter. Now before I do that, I want to point out that we are looking for online to be returned. So let's go ahead and say enter. And as you can see, online has been returned. So those are your examples how you can do a vector versus an array with the lookup formula. Again, this particular lookup feature searches to the left and the right of the common identifier. Alright, so next I would like to do an autofill, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this lesson up. Okay, so let's begin by selecting cell B2. Let's drag it all the way over to cell E2. Now let's go ahead and hover to get our black cross. Now we can do a double click to autofill, or you can simply drag it all the way down, whichever your preference is. I'm going to double click, and as you can see, my information is automatically filled in. Let's do a check on the second from the bottom. So it should be Jane household. The unit sold should be 6954 and it should be offline. So let's go hop over to the list tab, scroll all the way to the bottom. So here again, my rep is Jane. My information is household and offline. Okay, let's check the unit sold, which is 6954. Okay, so this aligns, so it looks like everything is correct. You can go ahead and filter through and check the rest if you choose to. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the lesson up. I hope you found this information helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Congratulations on completing another video and on your commitment to learning this program. I hope that you are getting the most out of our level up lessons, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next video.